You also trained as a healer out there.
Yes, we did. We were doing Shiatsu and some acupuncture. I had the chance to do that with a couple of very, very well-known and interesting people. But that was interesting. That was really quite trying to get a balance in things, and
well, I mean, just on courses that we've both taught together, you know, I've seen you do what would appear to be some quite miraculous things. And how do you, particularly the idea of Satsu Katsu, you know, life-taking and life-giving aspects of the martial arts. Yeah, can you just talk a little bit about that?
Surely, yeah. I think this is very, very important. When you look at the martial arts and when thinking of martial arts, to me, the particular strand or stream or ryuha, or what I follow, is not so much as a ryuha or as a style or anything like that. I'm not a great believer in styles. They have characteristics, but you know, I'm not a great believer in styles. But I'm a believer in Budo. Yeah, and so when we look at the idea of Bu meaning martial, warrior-like, physical, and Do, the way of the warrior, yeah? Budo, you put those together, and to become a Budoka, one who practices Budo, we have to absorb all elements of learning, to be aware of all things around us and try to study diligently and deeply into those things. And this was a lasting memory I always have of Gogen Yamaguchi Gogen, who he in interviews with him and in also articles which I've had the privilege to be able to write about him, he was always stressing. I remember on one occasion, it was a Miyagi Chojin anniversary of his death, and people from all over Japan and all over Okinawa, Inui Sensei was Yagi Sensei was from Okinawa, hundreds and hundreds of people gathered to this memorial service. And we're in there, and he gave a very moving speech, and what he was saying is that he wanted people to remember the importance of Budo the proper way, that it's not just a sport as such, but to look at the values within, the moral values which we should have, also to look at, in some ways, to understand, when maybe spiritual is not the right word, but what I think he meant was to commune with nature, to understand that we are part of a greater whole, and that we're all interdependent upon each other, and so that, you know, whatever knowledge we have, in some way, we have a responsibility to try and pass that on. So I look at it almost as like a conduit. I'm trying to pass on what I was taught, so to practice, preserve and propagate the right values, and so in a small way that's what I'm trying to do.
Because I know you've also worked in the medical profession as well, so you know, I mean, you really have combined the Satsu Katsu, the martial and the healing aspects.
When I look at that, you know, the life-giving, the life-taking, it's vitally important, especially from the Budo point of view as well. And some people might say, well, how can you have one, on one hand, say, you know, you can take a life? Well, if you realise the potential dangers inherent within the martial arts, you know that that is possible. That's not open to discussion, it's a fact. There are many exponents who can do that. And so with that degree, with knowledge comes responsibility. And with greater knowledge comes greater responsibility. So we have to be careful on that area. So that's the life-taking, the so-called the physical outward side. The life-giving area, when we look at that, that can be done through healing. I used to do a lot of work in the past in my profession with people who suffer from cancer. I mean, this is big things, for many years dealt with that. And so you begin to realise how valuable life is, how valuable it really is. So in some way in which you can help give people ease, or to you know, give them support or something like that, this is vital too. So the life-giving and the life-taking. So also there may be a time in a person's life where you have to protect yourself or your family, and sometimes so want to get rid of the one to protect the many is legitimate. You know, it has to be done, and that's it. But it's certainly by studying deeply, having a greater awareness of what's going on, realising what the consequences of our actions are, bring us back into thinking, taking time into meditation and introspection. And I believe if people do that as well, you'll gain more, you'll understand more about your art and what you're doing.
You get this idea of wa,
harmony,
peace, and back in Budo, and the way of martial arts as a way of keeping and maintaining peace, as peacekeeping.
Absolutely,
as opposed to then the balance of Satsu Katsu creates a peacekeeper, as opposed to a warrior in the way that maybe some people would think of it.
Yes, exactly, and that balance is so important. I mean, even in a small way from my group, the Bunbukan, the Institute of Classical Japanese Budo Culture, even from that point of view, what we try to do, when you look at the character Bun, Bun means like studies or mind or art, and this kind of thing. Bu is from the physical attributes as before, and Kan is a place where, a hall, a training hall where things come together. So it's a place where the mind and the body come together. So what we're going for is an integrated whole. Yeah. And this was the main idea of a lot of the warriors. When you look back in some of the, as you know, Steve, I've been an exponent of Iaido as well. When you look at the Kashima, Shinto Ryu, and Kagoshima, Shinto Ryu, all the different ryuha of swordsmanship did training within temple grounds, near temples and stuff like that. So there was always that awareness of a balance of...
Musa Shinden. Chris is a Shinto Buddhist priest and dedicated our shrine here. And I wondered, if you could just talk a little bit about the idea of Shintoism, Shinto Buddhism, how you got into it, how you found it, and Fudomyo. Just briefly.
Just briefly, okay. There is a natural reluctance because I don't feel in any way I'm an expert or anything like that, but I've gone through studies and it's been a practice which I've been doing for at least 3 decades now, on a daily basis. First aspect, Fudomyo. Fudomyo is the immovable one, guardian deity for all martial artists within Japan. In his right hand he is depicted holding a sword. In his left hand he has almost like a lasso, it looks like a nenju or a rosary. Normally it's shown, depicted either standing or else sitting on a banzurako, which is a jagged rock, and flames are emanating behind his back in a kind of aureole around him. Fudomyo, the immovable one. The right hand with the sword in it signifies the ability to cut, but it's not to destroy, it's to cut through ignorance. To cut through ignorance, illusion, delusion, to get to the core matter. In the right hand you'll see the nenju or the lasso to which to tie up evil people in a certain way. So when we look at this, he's a defender of justice, of protection in many ways, protection and justice, and he's the guardian deity for all martial artists. When we look at that deity, Fudomyo, when you see the flames which are surrounding him, it's that nothing disturbs his mind. So even with the heat or intense cold or sitting on jagged rocks, he never loses his center or his focus or his purpose. And this is a great simile for all martial artists. It really is, maintain the center. And so it's, I don't speak very often about this. If anybody was ever to get me to talk about it, it's only you, I can assure you. And if I seem a little bit uncomfortable with that, it's because I don't want to propagate or push forward things or ideas onto people. Everybody's got open mind, everyone can believe in what they believe and everything like that. I'm just saying it's an area of some interest to me, though in no way is it being rammed down people's throats. So that's the way with that. To go on to Shinto in itself is very, very interesting. Shinto is almost like the kami way, or the way of the kami, the way of the gods. Now Yamaguchi Gogen was a Shinto priest as well, and a lot of my interest stemmed from his knowledge in that and previous other things as well. And so what they believe in is goodness or spirit can be personified in different things. It can be a mountain, like Mount Fuji, which is sacred. It can be a tree, which are sacred. It could be rocks, it could be a river, it could be a whirlpool, it can be a person, it can be anything. But anything which can evoke a sense of wonderment within somebody or give a feeling of awe or comfort. When we sometimes we go walking in woods and we can look at a tree and we feel that's got something, there's something powerful, there's energy there. So whatever that is, that's known as having kami nature, or a nature of the gods. And so the Japanese, within the kami nature itself, when Japan was so-called the mythological founding of Japan, was 2 deities, Izanagi and Izanami. This could take some time. This could take some time.
You're interested, aren't you, folks? I know you are.
Izanagi and Izanami, two guardian deities. So essentially, there was this feeling that they lived on the high bridge of heaven, floating in the netherworld up there. And Izanagi dipped his spear or his yari into the briny mist, swirled it up, lifted, and all the droplets formed the islands which are known as Japan. Right. From their offspring, we got the goddess Amaterasu, or the sun goddess. Amaterasu. This is why when we see the Maru Hino, or the Japanese flag, which is the red sun, okay, this is the Shintai, or the symbol which the kami resides in of Japan, so the rising sun. So this is the red symbol, Amaterasu. So she's the. When we start looking at the sacred Japanese treasures, I told you it could go on. Yeah, the sacred.
These are important because they're all part of the shrine.
Yeah, the sacred Japanese treasures, which is the mirror, the magatama, which is basically like 3 spermatozoa following the tail. No, so really it's just literally the 3 jewel-like crescent commas which we can see, and we see these in a lot of martial arts diagrams or mons as such. They're part of it as well. So we have that, and that's indicative of the constant rotation of heaven, man, and earth. So you know the way that it's constantly going around there. So we have that. So the mirror is a very important part. The sword is an important part. The jewels are an important part, and the mirror is an important part. And the mirror was used to entice Amaterasu out of a cave where she was hidden when she fell out with a younger sibling for being naughty. But there's a lot of magical little things in there. But the imagery is still very important. Within Shinto, they have no concept in the Christo-Judea sense of, like, you know, sin. It doesn't exist. It's a state of either pure or impure, and so this is why the bathing ritual is is done a lot within Shinto as well. It's normally plain wood, unadorned, nothing too fancy, nothing too garish, shall we say, and it's just, you know, respecting the space in nature, and generally having the regular ofuro, the baths. And this is why sometimes when the austere people, like the Shugendo, the mountain warriors, or the Yamabushi mountain warriors, used to go up into the mountains, used to go under waterfalls, train austere living, training in martial arts and communing with nature. And this was one of the earliest forms of, like, Shinto practice. So to try to divide martial arts and austere training is, certainly from the Bushido or Budo part of you, is a misnomer, because they've always been entwined, though it's not readily available for that kind of knowledge to have been given out, I think. So that's the Shinto. So Shinto, main things: respect of nature, try to do good deeds, try to be a decent person, and give thanks to the daily chance we have of renewal, which is brilliant. And, you know,
balances really well, doesn't it?
It's balance,
with the martial arts. There's always that outstanding picture of Yamaguchi under the waterfall, you know.
Absolutely.
So quite a sort of powerful image, really.